Hi, welcome back to my blog. I want to introduce to you today a fantastic book. It's written by a colleague of mine. Every now and again in a generation a book of pure genius comes along, and this is one of those books. It's called Warriors, Settlers and Nomads, Discovering Who and What We Can Be by Terence Watts. And this book will give you a great insight into our inherited genetic personality types and applies to every single human being. So I strongly recommend this book to anyone on the road to greater self-awareness. And many of the facts within this book are explored in greater detail within executive masterclass programs. So, in the beginning, about 100,000 years ago, the human race lived in groups of 25 to 50 individuals, hunting and gathering their food from the land. They were already a developed race, having probably been around for some 300,000 years at least. But these were the first of the race that looked like us and, in a primitive way, behaved like us. For thousands of years, their way of life scarcely changed. Instinct and response patterns were handed on from generation to generation, what amounted to a genetically pure chain. These humans would have no qualms about incest or inbreeding, because those concepts simply would not have entered the realms of thought. There would obviously have been aggressive tribes and peaceful tribes, and because their way of life was constant, the skills needed to deal with that way of life became inborn and instinctive, so that successive generations became steadily more adapted to the environment in which they lived. Tens of thousands of years passed, something like 50 times the amount of time that has elapsed since the days of Jesus Christ and the Roman Empire. And then something of extreme importance happened. Something that was to affect the whole of the human race forevermore. Something that was to affect you. The first settlements were formed. A golden opportunity. It doesn't sound particularly important, but the effect on the wandering tribes was dramatic and polarizing. For the peace-loving tribes, it would have been an ideal situation. No need anymore to wander the land in search of food. Simply farm your own crops and livestock and share the work within the community instead of fighting the land. Adapt to it and tame it and use its resources for survival and comfort. These tribes became settlers and discovered their evolutionary destiny. For yet others, this would be too much. But they had never had the stomach for fighting, nor any wish to do loads of hard work for the benefit of somebody else. And now they had no desire whatsoever to stand around getting caught up in the crossfire between the settlers and a bunch of club-wielding roughnecks wearing strings of animal teeth around their necks. So they retained the instinctive nomadic urges of their earliest forefathers. Keep on the move, do not get involved, and constantly look for someplace interesting. They also eventually developed skills like thieving, bartering and entertaining, since this was an effective way to earn their keep on the road. Civilization. This was the origin of what we now know as civilization. And our inheritance is the inbuilt instincts of those early people. There has been much interbreeding ever since, and there are no longer any pure specimens of any one tribe. But there were some 90,000 years or so at least of savagery and wandering against a relatively few years of civilization. And evolution moves very slowly indeed. The original instincts still run high, We carry as our parents did, and their parents and grandparents before them, the genes from each of those three major tribes of mankind. But one set will usually be dominant, giving rise to a behaviour pattern that governs how we are, where and how we will be successful, the way we conduct our lives, or would, if our way of being were not modified by our early experiences.